I'm Ashton Addison from EventChain for Investment Pitch Media and the Crypto Coin Show. And today on Blockchain Interviews, we have Clifford Smyth, the CEO of Pruf. Clifford, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here today.
Thanks, Ashton. It is great to be here.
Yeah, I'm really excited to dive into Pruf. I know you have a twist on asset provenance with real-world items as well as digital items and NFTs, and I'm really excited to dive into how you guys are solving some of these problems that are in the blockchain space right now. And I would love for you to just kick it off for us with a focus on the focus of Pruf and how exactly you're solving these problems.
Okay, great. Yeah, at its core, Pruf is a privacy-first, chain-agnostic, NFT-based protocol for the tokenization and the management and verification of both digital and physical assets. It's kind of an important distinction. As a protocol, we're not an NFT platform or something like that, so we're not like in competition with platforms. We're actually tooling to build platforms on, and specifically for brands and artisans and artists, curators and collectors to extend their brands into the NFT space in a sort of a brand-centric environment, because it's a white box solution, so they can be brand forward and not be having their products displayed alongside of either competing or contrasting products. Sort of maintain their on-brand messaging and things like that to preserve the value of their offerings. And we solve problems both in the, as you said, both in the digital and the physical space. So I'll start off with sort of the bullet points for physical stuff. For physical items, we solve problems involving provenance. We manage that with privacy, unlike some other solutions that, well, obviously Pruf being on the blockchain is transparent. We still conserve privacy so that although you can prove that you own something, no one can look you up to see what you own, for example. It's sort of a one-way door. We handle proof of authenticity, so manufacturers' products can be verified to be authentic and not fakes or copies. Like I said, proof of ownership, other aspects of supply chain management in the physical goods space. In the digital goods space, our focus is on authenticity and proof of origin, which is a big issue on existing platforms, where the trust of this is an original and not a copy is just the records or database that the platform may have, and really isn't very transparent to the end user or a prospective buyer of a token, for example. And we also deal with data permanence, which is another big issue that we see in the space. And as I was sort of talking about the white box way that we are designed to be used, the branding and presentation in the NFT space, so that higher end brands or marks can enter the space without diluting their brand value or image, because they can incorporate our tooling directly into their existing web presence. And that's a good overview, I think. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, Clifford, and thank you for that extensive intro. And you are working on a bunch of different things. And supply chain management, you mentioned there, is one of, seems like, the strongest use cases for blockchain technology. Some of the earlier blockchain projects have been working on supply chain management for a few years now, integrating blockchain. Do you see something in the industry, a kind of friction in why more real-world assets have not already been integrated into the blockchain and are using asset provenance, using this kind of technology? How do you break down those barriers to entry to get adoption of that more quickly?
Okay, in the supply chain management part, there's quite a bit of friction, honestly, in that area, because companies are used to handling those things strictly with in-house record keeping and things like that. So it's not blockchain at that point is offering transparency and global accessibility to that information, and frankly, that's not a huge priority for all companies. So I think that there's maybe some limitations on that segment, except for in certain cases. What we've really focused on there is places where we can sort of compartmentalize larger systems into subsystems. so that a complex piece of equipment, for example, is separated into subsystems. Each one of those subsystems can have separate tracking and tracking of their life cycles and reuse and different things like that, where that information can feed back and then become valuable to customers. For strictly supply chain management, like of materials and things like that, like you said, there's players in that space already, and they're doing a reasonably good job of handling that. Where we really do something different is we bridge that forward into the consumer space. So basically, when something has been tracked from the supply chain out to retail, and then it moves forward into the consumer space, now it continues to have utility with the asset management features at that point and proof of provenance, where individual consumers then can prove ownership of their items. If they go to sell them, they can say, yeah, this is registered to me. It's not like stolen or something like that. So there's a lot of ways that extends using proof into the consumer space. That's I think our main innovations in the supply chain space come from subcomponent management and the bridging into the consumer space, basically.
Definitely, and I agree, Clifford. And on the digital side, the consumer endpoints that you touched there on the supply chain, that sort of makes me think of the creators and the curators of NFT platforms. And you mentioned how you're not trying to build an NFT marketplace, because there are a lot of marketplaces that are just popping up, and it's something that isn't really needed in the space. There's lots of marketplaces, but there are still a lot of artists and other kind of users that are looking to be able to create NFTs. Is there a gap there that you think really nobody's doing what Pruf is doing in terms of having that access door for more artists and other users to be able to create NFTs in the way that they want? Or really, what's your competitive advantage that you're really going to be able to drive home and on the NFT part for Pruf?
Okay, sure. That's a great question. A good example, I think, a good illustration of one of the problems that we're focused on in that space is, let's just say that I've got a fine art product that I say, okay, I want to. It's either, let's just say in this case, it's purely digital. It's purely digital. There's no physical asset to it. If I go onto an existing platform, basically I'm presenting my goods or my art there alongside a wide variety of different quality and grade of different products. So it's kind of hard to say, well, this is worth this because I made it and it's sitting right alongside of a collectible baseball card or something like that. It's just kind of a jarring experience as a consumer. It sort of feels like that I'm sort of in Lego world when I go into those places. And there's nothing wrong with that. Certainly, that has its place. But what isn't really out there, let's just say that some collector or a curator wants to set up their own NFT offerings. They have to basically create their own space. They're not going to just want to put their stuff up alongside of everything else. They have a whole brand image, especially in the art world and the fine art photography and things like that. Image is everything. I mean, it's just absolutely everything. So what we provide is a turnkey solution, basically. All these places have web presences already. They already have some web development going on. We provide a turnkey solution where they can integrate the Pruf protocol and Pruf enhanced NFTs into their existing offerings and into their existing platforms without doing any blockchain development and with minimal Web3 stuff. It's mostly packaged into our libraries. So that's sort of one of those places that we're inserting ourselves there. And one of the big advantages is, for example, if they were going to do a traditional NFT marketplace or offering, then they have to figure out how they're going to store these digital artifacts, and then realize that they're saying, okay, I'm going to sell this for $100,000, let's just say, and does that, how long am I going to keep this server online? How can I really guarantee that that's going to be there in 20 years, in 10 years, in 5 years, next year? So what am I really selling? I think that's a big problem with a lot of offerings is that they're just they're not really thinking about what happens farther down the line. I mean, everybody's really excited in the space. It's exploding in popularity, but we're thinking a little bit farther down the line.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And I think that is going to be necessary for the long-term success and the widespread adoption of Proof, and having people stick around, and not just having that curve where you launch and you have great adoption, and then it sort of curbs off, like Clubhouse, something like that's already or Pokemon Go. It's popular for a short amount of time, but then after that, the popularity fades, and
Yeah.
so that's you definitely need to have that stick around factor. And so you're fairly early on, and I'm glad that you have this long-term vision, but I'm curious, in the earlier steps of Proof in the launch for NFTs, for early adopters, do you have incentives, or how are you going to get the early adopters to stick around? And in terms of the marketing of it, are you going to partner with any curators or artists to help bring awareness that the platform is in an early stage and it has competitive advantages and people should be using Proof?
Absolutely, yeah. Actually, that's a big part of our strategy. We have a grant program, basically an outreach program, where if you have a project or an NFT product or something like that you want to launch, we're covering all the costs to set that up, as far as all of the node costs and some proof to utilize in the system. Extensive developer support and library support. So basically, we'll handhold their web dev team through the process of getting this set up and getting it operational for them. Actually, it's pretty simple. So we found with a couple of small projects that we've been working on a pilot basis that it's pretty turnkey for most people. But we're still providing that sort of first tier support and hand-holding for that process, because a lot of web developers aren't really familiar with the Web3 thing, and it's really intimidating to a lot of people. Mm-hmm. Actually, and right now, especially in the space, I mean, just try to hire a team to write some contract code or mm-hmm. or do some Web3 development. It's pretty crazy out there right now.
Definitely, it is. And on top of that, integrating blockchain and cryptocurrencies and trying to have that in there, but not in your face with all of these technical barriers to entry, making it easy for end users and laymen to be able to use the platform is going to be, I think, key in having widespread success as well. And you do have the Proof token, and I want to touch on that, before we end the interview, about how does that integrate into the platform? Is it easily usable by the end users and the developers? And how does it just create a sustainable ecosystem overall for Proof?
Okay, well, the Proof token is really kind of key to making a lot of this work. The Proof token, fundamentally, on a business model case, is used to align incentives within the system to make a sustainable and prosperous ecosystem. Basically, depending on the choices that the node operator, when I talk about a node operator, that would be like somebody that's, if we're going to stay in the NFT space here talking about it, somebody that is going to be minting NFTs on their platform. So the node operator then can choose to monetize different operations with their NFTs. In most cases, I think for most business use cases, they're not going to be monetizing things like transfers or anything like that. They're going to keep that pretty much industry standard. But certainly there might be certain types of transactions or collateralized loans or auctions or things like that they might want some commission on. Anyway, those the Proof token can be used to pay for, and is used to pay for layer 2 or network costs within the Proof infrastructure, and it can also be used by node operators in some cases to pay for layer 1 or like gas costs. They can actually use that to pay for gas costs if they choose to. Although I suspect that a lot of operators are probably going to be choosing to pay for gas costs themselves. In the ecosystem, the Proof token is burned to mint nodes. So when you want to create a new minting authority, Proof is burned in order to create that authority. It can be used as a unit of commerce for asset transfers. Like if you put something up for sale, it can be sold for the native token on the blockchain. Like in the case of Ethereum, that would be Ethereum. Or you can choose to sell it for a certain number of Proof tokens and that's part of the built-in revenue generation systems that we have built into the infrastructure. And it's also used to stake on nodes for DeFi revenue sharing. Basically, the idea there is it's sort of part and parcel of the distributed governance of the network, where nodes that are profitable people can stake on and they earn a share of revenues. And by doing that, they're actually giving extra voting power to those nodes. So by doing that, it incentivizes nodes that are generating revenue to operate in the system. And that's a description basically of the native staking, or the basic staking that we're doing. Now, obviously, as the system is first being built out, there's going to be not nearly as many nodes. And for that, we're offering, we've got a bunch of tokens set aside for early opportunity synthetic staking, basically, just a staking, a straight staking return contract, to sort of incentivize stability going into there. But we've already got some fairly interesting partners lined up. We've got an announcement coming up. I don't quite want to blow it just yet, but suffice to say, we've got some really prominent people from the fine art side of things. You know, these are people that have exhibits in the Smithsonian and in the Getty, and they're wanting to move into the NFT space, but they're extremely image conscious. They want to have control of the process, and that's something that only Proof offers. So. You know, we're trying to bring, basically what we're really trying to do there is bring legitimacy to the space, you know, to make it not just, is this real or is it not real, you know. So we're trying to make it so that there's actual lasting value generated when you tokenize a piece of art or something like that in the art space. Obviously, with physical stuff, it's sort of a different goal, a different process, but basically the same mechanics.
Definitely, and I completely agree, Clifford, and I'm excited to follow along for that announcement and hear about these artists and these curators. And you know, we are running short on time on the interview, but for the viewers, if they're looking to follow along with these upcoming announcements, or if there are curators and artists that are looking to, you know, have their NFTs verified and created through Proof's technology, and also the staking sounds very interesting as well for people that are interested in all of the, you know, technologies that Proof can provide. What's the best way for them to learn more about all of this and to get involved with the community?
Okay, I would start as far as figuring out and learning more about it. I would start, you know, with our website at proof.io. That's pruf.io. And if you want to know what we're up to, what we're thinking about, we publish that routinely on our Medium as Medium articles, and that's proofio.medium.com. So prufio.medium.com, and that you can see basically what we're thinking about, the things that we're working on long term. We typically write articles about the subjects and post them there. Other than that, following along with the community or getting involved in the community, and there's always opportunities. We're always having contests, and there's bounty programs and bug bounty programs and all kinds of stuff going on. Our Telegram group is the best place for that. That's t.me/Proof Talk. And then the events, it would be t.me/Proof Events on Telegram. And then, of course, there's always our Twitter, and it's twitter.com/Proof Team. So those are all fairly easy to find. That's probably where I would go for information. Really, the website's really informative. We've got there's the white paper there, of course. We've got some user stories and some examples of our vision of a proof-enabled future, and I think that those things are really helpful for people to understand where this technology can take them.
Definitely, and I will leave all those links in the description box below. Thank you so much, Clifford, for all this information. All the best with Proof's platform moving forward. I will be following along, and let's follow up in the near future.
All right, fantastic. It was great to be here. Thank you very much.